So I wanted to do a very quick video, I think, of trauma and soul surgery. I've been on this journey for, I would say in all honesty, about a year now, of acknowledging my pain, acknowledging my trauma, and actually being open about it and really working towards healing. And it's really hard as a black woman who, has always been advised to be strong, keep it together, don't break, don't fall, don't show anyone your weakness, to have to actually admit that I'm struggling and that things have been incredibly hard for me. It's quite often that I kind of show a image of myself being really well put together, professional, businesswoman, mom, entrepreneur, or whatever you want to call it. And it's actually a very far cry from what I really actually am like. And I think the reason I wanted to talk about it is actually because I have to remember that I'm raising a daughter and I'm raising two sons, and the narrative that I am portraying is not the narrative that should be carried on in their generation or in their children's. And it's quite easy to get kind of stuck in a pattern where you think, tell my kids to be strong, just get up and carry on doing things because that's what we were told and we were taught. But actually it's extremely dangerous. One thing I do know is that the seed of pain and trauma is always planted as a child. It's always planted in an innocent child. It usually starts in childhood, maybe being bullied, fear of abandonment, maybe father leaving, mother leaving, abuse, whether that's physical, sexual. The innocence is usually taken from a child from very, very early on, and it almost builds a sense of hopelessness, lack of self-worth, lack of understanding, lack of, not knowing what your purpose is in life. And that seems to carry on, year after year after year, and it gets passed down generation after generation. And I think, especially from my experience of having the amount of trauma that I've experienced in my life, I have been known to, what I'd say, disassociate myself from my trauma and my pain, build up this facade that I'm doing extremely well, which in all fairness I have been blessed. It's funny, I've had good periods, successful periods, and extremely life-changing, heart-wrenching, don't want to wake up tomorrow periods as well. And having to accept that there is the good with the bad. But actually, if you really don't deal with the bad, it really, it tarnishes all the good that you've achieved and all the good that you've done, and it poisons it, and you're never really able to appreciate all that you've achieved. I've been playing with this word of soul surgery. I heard another YouTuber talk about soul surgery before, and she's really, really good at advising how to sort of release your pain and to move on. But actually really thinking about what soul surgery actually means to me is it means really going into yourself, actually speaking with your soul, speaking with your pain and your trauma, and saying, you don't belong here anymore, it's time for you to go. And actually in this past year, I would say that I'm at the peak of the mountain right now, and it is so painful and so hard. But and actually I want to say this, actually going through this soul surgery, as to call it, I have to be honest with you and say that at times it's more painful than the actual trauma that I experienced throughout my life. It's actually harder. It's harder because when you're going through trauma and you experience it and you've been told and you've been taught, get up, put that cape on, you've got kids to look after, you've got a job, you've got businesses, you just need to keep on going. Go. Don't stop there. When you've been taught that and that is all you know, you are able to disassociate yourself, and it's like, I've got other places I need to go, so I'm not going to focus on what just happened over there. Yeah, that hurt and I was upset for a few days, but I can't cry no more because I need to get up and get things done. I get it. I've done it. And yeah, I've done well. But boy, am I damaged. I can't compare myself to anyone else, but I can say wholeheartedly and honestly that has done me no good and actually is doing me more harm and is more dangerous. And I think, like I said, with this soul surgery that I'm in at the moment, it's forcing me to look at myself and the decisions that I made, maybe even the situations that led to me experiencing trauma and pain, and force myself to get help. I mean, I'm not ashamed to say that I'm in therapy. I mean, I've been in therapy, in and out of therapy for the past 15 years, you know, but now I am like really screaming out like, no, I'm not okay, because the reason why I'm not okay is because I have children and I don't want my children to take on these things that I have taken on and then carry that on in their own lives. You know, I don't want my children to think being emotionally abandoned is normal. It's not. Like, when I think about when I had Shemaya so young at 16, I wasn't able to be the kind of mother that I am now, because, you know, you do what you see. And what I saw was that most black mums were single mums. They got up and they grinded and they did everything that they possibly could do to support their children. And we were strict and we were militant because that was what I had seen, that was what I had experienced, so that is what I did. Not realizing that actually, in terms of what a child needs, that nurturing, you know, that motherly love, you know, I can say that I definitely failed in the beginning, you know, and especially being so young when I had her, I didn't have the skill set and the tools to know how to manage some of the emotions that I was feeling as a woman. I definitely had postnatal depression, and in all fairness, I was so afraid to tell anybody that I was struggling, because I was always told, if you go and you talk about your mental health, you know, social services is going to come, they're going to get involved, they're going to take your kids. And I was so afraid of social services, like just the word social services, you know, if you go and you say you're depressed and then they take your kids. That made me feel like I was inadequate as a parent to have anyone question how good of a mother I could be, because I was struggling mentally. And obviously working for the NHS and things like that, I've come to realise it's actually very, very different to what I thought it was. But then actually hitting my crisis point where I was in need of immediate help and support made me realise how far away from the truth that was. Social services are not going to come. So social services obviously never came. They never got involved because it wasn't necessary. I'm not a risk. I'm not a bad mum. In fact, I live for my kids, you know. It would be great to find other purpose, you know, but I live for my kids. They are the reason that I wake up every day and I get things done. And actually having that courage to actually start seeking help, it's really unpacking a lot of pain, things that I even forgot. Because again, another thing with trauma is that we tend to not only just disassociate it, but it's almost like imagining that that's a story, that's somebody else's story, that happened, but I don't feel like it happened to me because I'm a different person now, so I don't think it's me. It's probably not me. And you almost look at it like you're watching it happen to someone else, but it's not you. And it's really crazy that our minds can do, or that we also forget what we experienced, forget key details about things that we may have experienced, especially in regards to trauma. and pain. And I think the best thing that we can do as parents, and even if you're not a parent, but the best thing that you can do is to actually acknowledge your pain. Allow yourself to go through it. It's gonna hurt. It hurts. I'm in pain constantly, and I say it in a way in which it feels like I'm burning from my head to the soles of my feet. That's how much pain I'm in, because I'm having to relive everything that I've been through, and it has been a lot, and it has been awful. It's been traumatic. It's been painful, but I'm healing. I'm gaining understanding, and I'm gaining freedom, and that, I suppose, is why I'm doing this video. I think after this coronavirus pandemic and everything that, we've all been through, I've experienced some losses in the past, but in the start of this year, some illnesses in my family as well. And I think it's just time for freedom now. I've made a conscious decision that I do not want to spend the next 30 years of my life suffering in pain and sadness and depression like I have for this previous 30 years, mate. This pain doesn't serve me here. It's no longer needed, and it's time to move on. And I just want to encourage anybody else going through the same thing to start dealing with your pain. So I'm going to get off to work now, because it is like 9:15. I think I've got a clinic to be in. But like I said, just start to acknowledge your pain and your trauma. Don't bottle it up. Don't bury it. Don't hide it. It's time to stand up and let it all go. Let it all out. Seek support. It's okay to go to therapy. It's okay to speak to a GP. It's okay to speak to a friend if they're good at helping you. But let it out. It doesn't serve you any purpose anymore being all bottled up. In fact, it's just doing you more harm. And anybody who is around you that is not helping you, they're hurting you. So it's another thing to kind of consider as well. But I wish you well. I am praying for me, just like I'm praying for everybody else who watches this video. Take care.